All right, so when you left that side, I mean, at what point did you start becoming, because you're going from electrician, you're going from an apprentice to a journeyman to now you're really learning the trades, right? And you're learning how to lead. And then somehow that leadership talent that you learned from nowhere, I mean, like you started from nowhere. You didn't go to college to get those things, but you're accelerating through these things. And now they're letting you learn how to be a business person too, right? And when I say business person, it means you're no longer looking at it through the optics of just that, but you had to start looking at the ripple effects upstream and downstream of the things that you guys were touching, right?
Yeah.
And the aperture that you view the world in kind of opens the more you evolve and learn and grow confidence.
Yeah.
So where was that next step when you went from those things to?
I mean, I probably got my biggest opportunity when I started traveling.
As a
like
GF or something? Or?
Yeah, like a general foreman, site superintendent type of role.
Is that what's above that? Is a super? Okay.
Yeah. And so you start traveling just because you're going to get so much more exposure, right? You're going into
what's the role?
What helped me with that, right? And we're in a growth period of our business, right? So we're entering into new markets. We're taking on maybe some jobs that are outside of like what stretched us into that market initially, right? So we're doing some other stuff, but new markets, new people, and sometimes new verticals, right? And that was actually one of my first traveling jobs was a data center, right? And at the time there was not a mission critical group. It was a government data center and very high profile at the time. And those data centers were a lot different than they are now, right? Like 6 megawatts was massive.
Plus they cost $20 million a meg then.
Yeah, tier 4, all that good stuff, right? But it was we had a sound and comm guy, like a Cat 6 guy, running the job because it was a data center.
That's awesome. And then someone cut the typo on that and figured it out?
Well, it just wasn't going very well for us, right? So it's not like...
That is classic.
So I get the...
How'd that got farmed out? That's
I get the phone call, and I'm in this startup meeting to go do something, and they're like, hey, can you go down there and do this? And you only be gone for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, right? And I ended up being gone for like 8 years, right? But it just was like, it was just one of those things. So you're going in. So, I mean, you learn that skill set of like being dumped in the middle of a firefight and trying to figure out how to, the ultimate goal is like get it out of the red back into the black and
just get it over with.
And
just get a program done
and get it over with, but get in the black, right? I mean, that is the ultimate goal, right? And it ended up being a really highly profitable job, but it was like, it took a massive amount of work, and I knew nobody there. I literally showed up to the job like riding a skateboard because my hotel was right around. Is
this Vegas now?
No, this is like Tucson, Arizona.
Oh wow!
Right? And it was wild. I mean, the general contractor still. I think our CEO still tells that story sometimes.
How you showed up to the site
because it was his division. Yeah, and. I mean, I thought it was great. I didn't have a truck, and I saw how it was only a quarter of a mile, so I rode my skateboard and, popped right in. Everybody's like, "You're here to do what?"
Yeah.
And you just get to work. And it was that to me, like learning how to fix jobs like that, it teaches you so much more quick. Like you can learn 10 years worth of mistakes in one job and never repeat it again, as long as you make sure that it's not ever repeated again, right?
How long was that project?
That project I was probably out there for maybe 6 months or something like that. Because it was on the tail end.
Were you enjoying the data center projects by then? Because you had been working on non-data center projects too.
Yeah, I mean, that was fun. And then we went up and did another data center up in Phoenix and started that. And then...
how did you guys discover like who was going to oversee the mission critical work?
Well, this is before that. Because after that, I went over to... Then it was like, I'm in Arizona. We just took down the biggest job that we've ever had. And it was the city center job in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. 5 massive... hotels, coming out of the ground at the same time, 76 acres, like tower cranes.
That was like
everywhere.
$1 billion program or something, right?
That program, I want to say it was like 7 billion, right?
7 billion.
Our portion is, I mean, on those
Probably
jobs,
40%.
No, no, way less, like 10, 15.
Because it's a
right?
hotel.
Yeah, it's
I'm thinking
hotel,
data
yeah,
centers.
10, 15, yeah. Way different. Yeah. So, ended up there and was living in Las Vegas for
That's a safe place
too
to live.
long. Yeah.
People like us should live there on the strip.
You'll definitely, my address was 2700 Las Vegas Boulevard.
I don't even know.
You'll make some poor decisions, but you'll make some good memories, but learn some life lessons. Let's just put it that way.
That's.
Yeah. But meanwhile, you got to go do work too. I mean, if this is about work, But I mean, just think about the opportunity to go down there and run, massive job for a company. You're like 27, 28. I mean, so all this has happened. Just think about the time frame. Like 28, maybe down there.
That's the time in your life to grind like that. The shoulder, that's a crucible, right? Where you're literally rucking through a few years of your career in your late 20s, where
but you go from turned out at 24 and to 28 at that spot, right? So just think about it. Yeah.
You were there that long and you survived?
No. I was there 28. So 24, like turning out as a journeyman, to 28, running
4
that
years
job.
later. Wow.
Running that job. And then I was there for probably 3 years at least. Yeah.
I'm going to go on a limb now and say you definitely wouldn't give a program that size to a guy that just turned out of the journeyman.
No, we have a risk committee now. We would have struck that down. Yeah.
No, but I mean, it was the Wild Wild West back in those days.
But
right?
it was all, I mean, that was done on gut and some people that just had a tremendous amount of faith in me. And they had my back. And it was a ride. And listen, I made more mistakes on that job than I'll
Let's
ever
talk
make.
about it. Joke.
That's another podcast.
But there's people don't realize that the greatest growth that ever happens in your career always comes from trauma in your career. Stress inoculation, pressure testing. Sadly, we just never learn from the things we do right. We only learn from the things that are wrong. You need to have a team that you could trust because it's not if, it's when you're going to fail. And you need your leadership to be willing to allow you to do that without playing Dr. Kevorkian with you, right? And it sounds like that's why you were able to fail forward, right? You had people that genuinely liked you and they cared about you, right?
I mean, and listen, you still have to pull your own weight. You're going to make mistakes, but making mistakes doesn't mean that you're failing. Right?
Oh my God. Thank God.
Yeah.
Or I'd be dead, right?
Just like bad decisions don't make bad people. I mean, that's just one of those things, right?
It's my favorite line of Earth. Yeah, I use that every day. All right, so when you left those bigger programs, I mean, I understand.
That's when I came back to the mission critical. That's when I came and found like our real data center program.
Is that when you left the field, so to speak?
Yeah, that's when I transitioned over to the field. And
so what was the genesis behind that, and how does that conversation and how many? I'm saying that so that other people can understand that, because there may be some kid that's listening that's going, "Hey, look, if he did it in 12, I'll do it in 11," or arbitrary numbers here, but. There has to be a roadmap. You didn't have one. I didn't have one. The reason why we're doing this podcast is to give a roadmap. I mean, if you want to open up the volume of people that we get to have an impact on their lives on, whether it's in the military on my end, the trades on yours, we have to educate them. We have to help them understand. We speak shorthand because we understand this stuff so well, but others don't, right? So we have to slow it down and talk.
So I think I stepped out of the field role probably around 2009.
And did you want to?
Well, it just was, I had a long conversation with one of the guys I just met, Matt Engler, right? Go ahead, slander him real quick. No, first time.
I like him more than you.
Yeah, so does everybody else.
Who doesn't, actually? I mean, be honest. I love Matt. Slander him. What is that?
Oh, come on. Usually, I mean...
The Latino Rob Lowe? That's not slander.
Oh, there we go.
That is a compliment. It is Cinco de Mayo.
He's probably crying right now. He's got laughing tears,
When he does, though, do you think the makeup
Cinco de
smears?
Mayo.
I fucking love... I love Rob. I love Matt. He's got to come on and tell his story, because his story about how he came to Rosendin's pretty funny, too, actually.
It's so annoying. Yeah.
No, it's awesome. I love that story. Hedging both bets against the middle.
Oh yeah.
But for you,
but it was just a conversation, just about what he needed and what the vision was. And, you know, me at that time, still, I was like 1,000% just like field focused on this. And he goes, I think we could do something better. He goes, I need this, but you want to have flexibility. Come over. You could still be all of that.
What was Matt at that time? Was he, because he's like he's a big deal now, right? But before that, was he a average size deal? But he was taking.
I don't even know what his title was.
All
I
right.
mean, it took me weeks to even meet him at the time. He wore.
Do you
pleated
think
pants,
then
that's
he
all
knew
I
that
know.
he would jump 20 feet higher than you on the helicopter
20
into the water?
feet.
It could have been 25 feet.
Oh, that's such bullshit.
Seems like he doubled whatever you jumped. I don't remember, but anyways, so you guys, Matt was kind of quarterbacking this loose
Yeah, it was
thing
just,
that was
you know,
really
it was
just getting a lot of this data center stuff.
One of our mutual mentors, Larry Beltramo, he was just like, hey, Matt said, hey, I think there's something with this
Something
whole,
going on in this industry.
with this industry and this mission critical stuff, and let's go figure it out, right? Let's get a focus group together.
So you guys are one of the largest electrical contractors in North America, and you're headquartered in Silicon Valley. And you guys were seeing that this data center thing's actually taken off, man. We may want to look at this one again. Yeah, and that's
didn't take somebody super smart, right?
nailed it, right? But listen, that's fantastic because you guys were literally at ground zero during the birth of the industry,
Yeah.
right? And you guys got to see all that. I mean, especially in the time that you've been there. You've been there. You were at Rosendin longer than I've been in the industry, right? You're at Rosendin for 23 years?
20, I think 22. It's like right there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, listen, I got in the military in 2000, and
Yeah.
I didn't get right into this industry. I was probably a year and a half out before I did. So, yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of things that have changed, not just from your business, but from the industry side, right?
Yeah.
So, from an electrician's perspective, when you were joining then, like, what could someone have told you that would have really helped you?
To me, it was just like opportunity. Let's do something different. We need field expertise in our business to have continuity into like how we make money still, right? We make money by electricians going out and doing electrical work. Bottom line, right? That's how it's done. So to not have that type of transition from field to office, field people into the management or the office side, and it doesn't matter whether it's BIM technology or purchasing or a mission critical, a hospital vertical as a project manager or an estimator or whatever it is, like having that continuity though from the field to the office when you're a self-performed contractor is crucial to make sure that you don't ever lose sight of like what makes this profit.
So, to that end, that seems like a really smart. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Is that intentional in the way that you guys do it now? Folks that are in the office, so to speak,
Yeah,
typically come from the field?
Yeah, no. It's but what we try to do is we try to solicit that opportunity from the field and make sure that they know. Because like me, I mean, they didn't get in it to go be a project manager. They got in it to go build stuff with their hands, right? And it's like, so what else can you build when you're not using your hands, right? You could build people, you can build relationships, you could build teams, all of that, right? You're still building, it's just in a different context. So we are trying to do a better job to really solicit that. And the goal would be to have probably at least 3 to 6% of our staff on the office side come from the field at least, right? And that seems light, but really we're probably more than that right now anyways.
It does seem like there's a lot of value in taking the challenge. I mean, the decisions are made in the office, but then the pain is discovered in the field of what works and doesn't. It does make sense to have some of that brought back inside. So you were there for however long, and then you end up going inside. Did you go into like estimating? I mean, what were the options, and what did they say?
I literally went over, and he's like, "Hey, I need help. You supplement." This is Matt. He's like, "You compliment me because I don't know any of this stuff, right? But I know all of this on the estimating and the management side." He goes, "I'll teach you that, and let's just make sure that this is tied into that, right?"
So you guys are like peas and carrots. Between the two of you, had a fully functional brain that could manage everything on the I got it. All right, I get it. That makes more sense.
That's it. And it was just like, let's go. And it's all of a sudden, like, you're starting to sit in front of owners and and GCs at a high level talking about jobs. This was like as they progress from like 3 megawatts to 6 megawatts to maybe like a 12 megawatt monster job and things like that.
Those were big projects, man.
Those are massive projects. And and then it just kind of got this momentum. And I started like in there, it was actually bid leveling on a massive job for the government, and learning about. It's one thing to be an electrician and install a bunch of electrical equipment, right? Whether it be gens or switchgears or UPS, whatever, right? But learning how to buy it and go through the bill of material and understand, like, it was a whole new skill set. So I'm like drinking from a fire hose, going through. I've got leveling sheets like the size of blueprints, like literally going through. And these are massive.
Because you're also buying at massive volume.
Massive volume. Yeah. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah. That's what this was. And then it was like, okay, we had to do that. And it's like, get into like understanding the estimating and how to go learn. So it was literally like, you know, I think what I talked about earlier about, you know, my goddaughter getting into that management side and learning about estimating and procuring. Yeah, I'm doing that now, but with the field skill set that kind of ties us all together. So it's on steroids at that point in time.
And it's right? Like an apprenticeship again, it sounds like, because the whole industry was taking off. You're
constantly learning. If you're doing it right, you're constantly learning.
So I had Carrie Getz on the podcast, and she's like, yeah, I was a part of the largest apprenticeship in an industry, you know, on earth. And she's like, when the data center industry started, because every other industry has kind of been here before we were here, from automotive to porn, you know, and she's like, but this one didn't. And all of us that were doing it, it was the first for all of us. So the whole industry was building for the first. I mean, I don't even know if the soup's done cooking now, right? But but they're like, the beauty about that time is we grew really strong because no one knew a thing, right? Like we were all going through it together for the first time, and we were just collaborating. You know, I'm sure, I have to imagine with the relationships you have, there's plenty of times, and you and other electricians from other companies have had conversations to steer away from certain things.
All the time.
Right. You have to have those relationships. You could have rivalries, but you have to have relationships too, right? And I think that that's still something that's going on today, is these apprenticeships that are taking place, because think about the way that we're building data centers now versus the first time you built one.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Think about the way that you guys probably build in hospitals or hotels now. It's probably not the same as you were when you were running those through. Just the means and methods, the efficiency in the programs, the way that we approach them. There's just too many things that have been learned and things gained in the maturity of this industry, which is still technically, I would say this industry from the data center side.
Yeah.
Fairly infancy still, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that evolve. I think that's why I've never really put a lot of stock in experience for the subject matter expertise, but on the holistic, like there is value in being a professional, knowing to show up to work and what the right attire is and how to address the chain of command. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's experience of that, but like, this industry is so new every year. It's just, even to this day, there's still a lot of things that change. And you're on a labor and a product side, right? Because the MPS is really delivering a UL-listed product that is, imagine building data centers with Legos. That's what you guys are creating with these widgets. And labor goes into that, and it's very intense. But if you look at that, I mean, when you first started MPS, which has to be 10, 12 years ago, whatever, right? How much different is it now than it was then?
There's, believe it or not, there's still products that are like really close to some of the original stuff with some of our first end users. But yeah,
so it's the same.
It's taken. So it's still some of the very close to the original type of product development, and then it's gone like, whew, right. But all of those product lines are still being sold, right? The whole gamut of the evolution of that product, because you have so many new entries into the market in the mission critical space. Like they go back, like they're not up with the times all the time. They're just not ready for it, right?
Are they standardizing on a product?
Yeah, standardizing, or they just are like bought into like something they saw Jim Smith talk about in 2010, right? They're like, yeah, that guy knows
it's
it.
The gospel. It's the burning bush.
Yeah.
I got it.
Right? And so
Jim,
they just kind of go.
You're like that.
Yeah, I mean, but the evolution is only gonna, like, that's the future of all of these industries, right? Is gonna be, you know, more modularization, more prefabrication, more integration offsite to supplement the fact that we cannot get enough craftspeople to go build it. So it's like,
let me explain that a different way. He's saying that they're going to take part of the project that is built in the construction site in the field into a static environment so they could build it in parallel and have a higher QA/QC element to it, and then ship that back to the site, that requires less labor to kind of work on top of each other, the coordination of the trades,
Yeah.
and it makes it easier and safer
Yeah.
to put something in. So what you're saying is the means and methods have changed, as well as the way. What I'm saying is how much more different we'll be in 5 more years from now.
Oh,
It's not going to be the same. It's
No,
not
it's
even
not.
static in a little bit. It's not even dynamic. It's very almost kinetic based on the competition that we chase from other industries, trying to put pressure on our supply chains, and then the people within our industry putting pressure on the supply chains.
Yep.
People don't realize how much semiconductor work is coming to the United States as well as a byproduct of COVID.
Scary.
So let's pivot into that, because your story is no longer riveting. I'm really once we got in the office, I was like, this is boring. But is there anything else from the office? Because I probably met you shortly after that, it seems like, right? Because I met you at a Vantage program. Jim Trout was still the CEO of that company, so however long ago that was, and Jason Green, all those guys. But now, you're focused on a much more wider stroke of things versus it seems like you were really just focused on an industry. Now you're focused on a lot of different things. Yeah,
the business.
So to that end, talk to me a little bit more about like the industry that we have crystal balls that are very inaccurate for what the next 6 months of linear trending looks like for our space. You're talking about, whether we're in a recession or staring down the barrel of one is subjective, but either way, there seems to be a defensive posture by certain groups in certain verticals of industry. The mission critical space doesn't have a chance, right? It's a byproduct of the adoption rate of emerging technology. They can't control how many consumers are going to do things, and we get the benefit of that, right? So, so to that end, what do you see happening from the industry perspective that has an impact on your mission right now? What's your mission? I mean, you're not just the mission of Rosendin, but your personal one, in terms of trying to, you're really trying to figure out a way to train and elevate, the team's capabilities, right? So how does the industry's evolutional shifts play into what you're trying to do that is a global company that operates throughout multiple industries?
Yeah, I think that these verticals that are lighting up, it's just the demand that it's putting on the labor force right now is never been seen before. But we're also having certain verticals slow down right now.
Like?
So this was like, I say these past couple of years were, and I talked with some of my mentors. I was like, when was the last time you've seen this? Like every single major city is on fire from a work perspective, like white hot. Right? All at the same time. Because usually it's like Arizona's hot, Oregon's hot, California's slow.
Or it's sector like government
whatever.
versus...
Yeah, government. Yeah, but every sector, everything has been one. So we're starting to see like campus stuff start to slow down, like big,
Government work?
No. Just like big tech
campus.
tech
companies.
Yeah, office stuff, right? Mass stuff because people aren't coming into work and now there's a recession. They're doing a bunch of layoffs, right? And that happens and so then, money's getting expensive. So you're going to start seeing less and less hotel stuff and, developer driven stuff kind of come out of the ground on
This is when some people double down though, right?
That's right. It is. Yeah. You're going to have that. Somebody's.
It's an opportunity, not a problem.
Somebody's going to go seize the moment. Right. But right now what we're seeing is like the mission critical piece is still remaining very, very strong. It just happens to be consolidated in a handful of markets. I'm waiting for it to like.
Are you really though?
Oh man.
Do you really want to see it?
We don't need any more mission critical space in Arizona. Stop building there right now. Take a deep breath and let's call me if you need another stellar market.
I hear you, but I think that they go there because
I know why they go there, but I mean, I get it. And so then you're going to have the semiconductor piece, which is rampant, like you just mentioned, right? That's going to go nuts.
What is that? Is that $500 billion worth of semiconductor work in like the next 6 years or something like that?
Unbelievable.
I heard a half it's in Texas, right? So I'm like, you got to be feeling some pressure in Texas right now.
Yeah, Texas is getting wild.
Which state is the wildest for you guys right now? Is it like Northern Virginia, Northern California, Dallas?
Arizona is probably the most where you just have these major programs coming in. You have a couple really strong verticals that are just lighting up like crazy, and very limited labor. I mean, from a labor perspective, it's one of the cheaper states, right? From a wage perspective, so those folks are usually traveling to wherever they haven't had to leave home for a long time,
Yeah.
and they're getting paid LARP and all this other stuff we were talking about. I mean, life's good there if you're working with the
If
tools.
you're an electrician and you're in Phoenix, like Jay Forster one time was telling me, we were in Virginia doing something, and he goes, Kirk, if you're a kid that has a screwdriver in your garage at home, you're worth $125 an hour in Virginia as an electrician right now.
Yeah.
He's like, that's just how much demand there is, And I was
Yeah.
like, damn,
It's
I had no
crazy.
idea how crazy it is. But Phoenix is your top market, huh?
Well, Phoenix, let's just talk like man hours and opportunity, right? I mean, Texas is booming. I think, this manufacturing that's coming back to the United States in millions and millions of square feet, billions of dollars. That's going to be another big vertical, and it'll be probably a little more rural than like your mission critical stuff.
You mean
is.
like tier 3 markets? Like, you say rural, is that Alabama or is that like the suburbs of Dallas?
Yeah, like Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's rural.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had data centers there.
Well, yeah, I mean, but just even from a manufacturing perspective, like,
Sure.
your Tennessees, your Kansases, your, Ohio's, stuff like that. I mean, there's just going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity there that needs thousands and thousands of people in the trades.
Made in America, baby.
That's it.
America.
Somebody's got to do it.
I'm all about that. I'm so happy to hear this. So how do you brace yourself for that, knowing that our industry is growing at double-digit CAGR, and you have these other industries that are actually doing very fine as well?
We need to be getting the word out earlier to people who are not targeting construction. And hold on real quick before I even go down there. Renewables. I missed it last time. Renewables, I mean, they have some challenges, but renewables is like you're in the boondocks.
Is that the greater Wild Wild West then, you're saying? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're out in like El Campo, Texas, right?
Oh, because they're doing solar farms and wind farms.
Way
and stuff.
out there, right? By
Good
nothing.
times.
And you're literally going to like, those little, you may have like a Chick-fil-A, a gas station, and a shoe shop, and you're trying to hire everybody there, right? I mean, that's what you're hiring, right?
Damn.
But it's an entry into the electrical field, right? Because
Yeah.
you can come in, you don't even have to go through the apprenticeship. That's what I'm saying. There's two different paths to even go in and be a journeyman, right? Now there's an apprenticeship path, and then in a lot of these locals, especially in like the southwest, anywhere outside of like California and
Is this
Oregon,
okay.
And even California has it. It's just like some of those really like San Francisco, Bay Area type of stuff. It's shocking, I know. But I mean, you can get to a journeyman status through testing and hours and exposure, and not even you could short circuit that 5-year plan if you're good enough. And so there's like this whole nother avenue.
I think that's the
to get
thing
in
that,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that people are just trying to understand. I think that there's some kids right now that are leaving high school that are actually pretty savvy, and they have access to more resources and tools. Maybe they have just better mentors, or they're like you that were in a survivability mode. Like you're laser focused when you have to survive, right?
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to pressure test and measure and weigh their options right now. And their options are, I go work for, I go to college, I go work for something that is useless until I figure out what I really want to do, but it allows me to have some money. Or I start building a career, right? And that could be, military, the trades. You could go get into real estate. I mean,
You
there's
got
a million
to
things.
focus on something with some runway, like bottom line.
And be willing to like take a risk, I think. Like,
Oh, you got to take a risk. If you don't take a risk, then especially with this generation, you're just going to be frustrated by how long it takes to achieve what your end game is, right?
I think that I always looked at it, whereas if I were to go back, I would have easily got into the electrical, knowing that if I didn't really want to be out there getting hazed by some guy for pulling cable that, I wasn't doing it fast, I'd be like, I'm going to go work in the office or figure out how to do long division faster or some shit, because there's other things. But
yeah,
like you never know, right? I don't want to get into something that has a very limited range, right? Where I think that all the trades have massive opportunity because you start from the same place, but everyone just grows based on where they are finding that they are valued the most. Like for you went into places Sounds like they were listening. You're like, look, we want you. And like, whoa. And they're like, we see value in you here. You're coming here, right? That's nirvana, right? Is to go to where you bring the most value.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we want to do is bring value.
Yeah, no doubt. You gotta be, I said it earlier, right? Be willing to be uncomfortable, and you've got to go all in at the end of the day, and just you got to be relentless when it comes to this, right? I mean, you're in there. This is a livelihood, and the thing is like, I have a very short time frame as an individual. Like, you have a short time frame. Your patience is this. I mean, it's just. But I've been.
Are you judging me?
But I've been in this industry for a long time. Been with this company for around 22 years, and there's just so many different things. Like, the ceiling is, the sky is literally the limit in this industry, especially in a company of this size and magnitude. I mean, the opportunities are through the roof. It's unbelievable.
I would say that there should be multiple narratives then. There should be a narrative that goes to the JTs, the people that are like, maybe they are the perfect candidates. They've came out of the military, they came out of high school and they tried a few things and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And now they're like, okay, this isn't working. Like you said, it's not just I want to play grown up, it's time to grow up.
Yeah.
How do they connect with you if it's hard to, how do they tell you? How do people reach out to the trades and say, hey, listen, what it sounds like you really needed? I mean, the minimum thresholds from an intellectual perspective aren't massive barriers to entry, I'm guessing. I'm assuming that most people pass that. They could pass the GED requirement. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm saying is
accessible.
But that's not really, that's the standard, but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for people that have already kind of, they've messed up a few times and they want to start doing it right. They want to grow up, you said. So how do they message that to you guys?
And honestly, I think that we don't have that down packed on the Rosendin side. I'll be honest, because these are times that nobody's ever experienced it to this magnitude, right? And so we're having
it's cyclical for you guys, right?
Yeah, and we're literally having to sit back, and we have a workforce development team that is like, this is what they live every day, and they're having to come back and figure out, okay, how do we solve these problems for these operations groups, right? And think differently. So that we're in the infancy of just figuring this out. Right now, we're throwing money at people, but it's like, if you would have asked me when I was 18, before I was even in the trade, right, what the IBEW was, I'd have no clue at all. I wouldn't even know. And if you had asked me what an electrician does, I would have had, a 0.1% idea of what it is that they do. You just don't understand that. So I think as an industry, we're trying to get down and get better and explain the opportunity and the message. But we have a lot of work to do to get in front of those people, to even we're using social media to just say, hey, you fit this demographic, right? You want a job? If you come into these zones where we have these needs, it'll be on your Facebook, it'll be on your Instagram, it'll be whatever, right? And so, that's how we're trying to get our exposure out. That's another big avenue. We're getting millions of clicks on this stuff, and then we're seeing some follow through by the thousands, and then we're seeing, it turn into it's a pretty good return rate when you look at the overall investment that we're spending from a monetary standpoint to actual people. But we have a lot of work to do as an industry, as far as to get in front of high school and college kids and even people who have gone through that whole cycle, and just kind of talk about the opportunity. We're nowhere near firing on all cylinders right now.
You guys have done a really tremendous job of hiring veterans too. So I appreciate everything you've done for the veteran community. But let's do this. Let's bring this home, because we'll cut this one in half and share it in pieces, so that with little drips, so that we can get people willing to, if not listen to this themselves. It's really more designed, maybe it is designed for people in this space that don't realize that they can reinvent themselves and find an amazing career as an electrician.
Yeah, I mean, we could give you some QR codes to tag on your thing or whatever it is, but I mean, we need to do a better job to just kind of go to careers, field careers at rosendin.com or whatever the heck it is, right? I don't have any of that stuff memorized. I really should.
Yeah,
but
you
we
should.
make it super simple. I promise.
EVP, huh? They just must hand that out to anybody. Hey, do you want to be an EVP too?
Yeah. I know I suck, but there's I mean, we're trying, man. We're trying to get in with the veterans. We're pulling out all the stops.
No, I get it. I mean, you're in the most challenging position. I think the trades are under the greatest amount of pressure right now, right? Because there is a lot of people leaving. With that comes a lot of experience and talent and wisdom, and there's disparity between maybe what's coming into the program versus what's going out, not just from a benchmark perspective, but like those that are willing to stick it out. I mean, you need to find people that want to play in this industry in the long term, and they have to invest into it, to be successful in the long term. So what's the last message that you want, and then we'll bring this thing home. So what's the last message when you're to anybody that's listening? Well, if they want to share this with their kids, what's the message if they're a parent, father, mother, you're sitting around your kids, sons and daughters, right? I mean, like, look, there's plenty of women in the trades.
We need more women in the trades. Good Lord.
But
that's for sure.
What is it? That's why I'm like, I think you need a few narratives. You need one that really more appeals to them too, right? But what's the message that you want to leave with a broad stroke to everybody that's listening right now, to where your daughter, my daughter, people like that would be like, maybe I can do that,
Yeah. I would say don't discount the trades. The opportunity is there. You could have a tremendous lifestyle, security, and retirement, and all these other things. It checks so many boxes there. And you can have fun, you can see the world, and you can get exposed to a million different things that and make some great friendships too, and make some good, hopefully, I mean, there's probably somebody who's listening to this right now that is going to be the next executive vice president of some major construction company if they just go swing, right?
Yeah.
And just got to come in and really just push for it, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, because it'll be a short time, and depending on what you want to do in the trade, you can build stuff with your hands for the rest of life, or you can build businesses and build people. It can all come out of the same spot. So,
well said. I'll leave it with this: I had a podcast the other day. They were calling it the cloud to ground strategy, right? And I'm like, I think maybe don't think of yourself as an electrician. Think of yourself as the person that's building the home for the cloud, right?
Yeah.
And you just happen to be an electrician as the vehicle of getting it done. Those constructs may not be as exciting because they are career fields, but I'm like, it's what we do. Like, we get to do the coolest stuff. You could be like, hey, I'm in construction project management. You're like, good for you. Your parents are probably really proud, right? But at the end of the day, when you get to see what we're building and all the things that go in those facilities and how they impact the lives and improve the lives of everyone around the world, you're like, I'm actually doing something significant. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I think that that's where the narrative should be focused on. Not, you guys have a lot of amazing things. There's a lot of, retirement and all. But you get to do something that lets you go home every day where you're pressure tested, because you're a little bit at risk. I mean, it's a dangerous role that we do.
Yeah.
But you're also building.
You're building America.
You're building the number one infrastructure. Digital infrastructure is the platform that controls and drives or limits every other industry in the world.
Yeah.
So it's the tip of the spear. I think that's the sexiest thing. We have to sell it like that, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Listen, any other things, any other notes that are worth mentioning about you, Rosendin, the trades, being an electrician?
Nah, I think we're good. We're just be on the lookout. We'll make sure we're going to try our hardest to go find you. So,
all right,
we're coming for you. We need to get some hard hats on everybody and get them to work.
No kidding. And listen, to that end, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast and you like it, share it with your friends. Post something, but realize that this podcast is really designed for this. It's I got to get some other trades up here and talk about it, what they're doing, and realize that there's other outlets for our kids to get into, and we have to break away from just like it's college or nothing, because there's a lot of really cool things you could do that are significant, that actually have a really, really strong opportunity to make money, and people just don't know about it. It's like one of the best kept secrets.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you making time to join the revolution, and thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All right, be good.